Hi everyone, I'm Mark Boyd from ProgrammableWeb. So then this afternoon, to start with, we've got a few speakers. First of all, just presenting how they've shepherded an API strategy through their organisation or with their partners or customers, and then we'll open up the floor for questions as well. So thinking through all that you've heard of, all that you've heard today around how APIs are disrupting business models, how they're creating opportunities for new markets, and for monetising a business's digital data assets. We'll be looking at all of those sorts of things in some real-world examples. So first of all, though, we'll get each of the panel members to just briefly share a little bit of the API story that they've had with their own agencies. So we've got Joakim from Bisnode, Kenneth from PostNord,
Right.
and Travis from Tubo. So Joakim, do you want to start by telling us you're mostly working with internal APIs?
Yeah, within Bisnode, yes, we have a long history of integrating against our customers. Our customers have for decades asked us to integrate against their services, so we don't only do our own web portals and clients, but we also integrate against our customers' systems. So we've been doing this since the mid-80s. And thus, the business model during the first 2 decades in business history hasn't really changed that much. We have different ways of getting paid for the information we provide to our customers. But of course, we also work with APIs internally when we develop new services. So everything we have internally from data sources and services like that are on APIs. Now, I need also to tell you about a little bit of Bisnode history, because if we're just looking at Sweden, we used to be 18 brands, 18 companies, with at least 18 different strategies on doing things, 18 different platforms for data and different platforms for portals and security and things like that. So during the last 15, 18 months, we're doing a massive restructuring of the whole company. So the 18 brands in Sweden are turning into one Bisnode, or the 70 brands and companies in 19 markets in Europe are turning into one Bisnode. So now we're doing this transformation, and we'll bring up all these different platforms and technologies, and of course also in there's an API strategy which will reach beyond what we used to have.
What's the starting point then for you? Is that you're working with internal departments and helping them identify where they need to find a commonality, or when they're sort of working, when they're turning from their independent sort of company with their own brands into the one organisation? Do you have to help them shepherd how to make their data speak to other parts of the organisation, or do you start with the business strategy and then identify what the goals are in the business strategy that relate to them, and therefore where the APIs come into play?
We do both at the same time. We have to. It's like changing the engines of the airplane in midair. But still, we have to do that. The business strategy is not that different from what we used to have, because Bisnode was there the first 20 years as well. So as a holding company, we had a business strategy set. And then we consolidate all our data and services to one platform. So we're doing both at the same time, as you say.
Okay, thanks. Kenneth, you've helped steer an API strategy through PostNord. Particularly, we were talking a little bit earlier in the break about the track and trace and their use of APIs. Do you want to share a little bit about that story with us?
Yeah, I don't know if you know PostNord. We have just recently changed name from Posten, which was the name we used on the market in Sweden before. So PostNord is the kind of mother company for Posten and Post Denmark, and I'm working with the parcel side, a new company called PostNord Logistics. And I'm the guy that actually knows about nothing about APIs. So because I come from a company that was founded in 1635 something, and we are kind of have a long tradition, but not within this area. We have a few APIs on the market. It's kind of a pilot that got stuck. It's bad. We have a bad quality on the APIs. They are not thought through. There is no development support. So we realized we needed to do something with those APIs. It's for instance our track and trace APIs that you use if you have a parcel, incoming parcel from an e-commerce site that you use. So we have just started a big work on trying to get serious with the APIs, and on that way also figuring out what that means. What can we publish on the internet? What do the customers need really from the data we do have? So that's kind of one big learning curve for us that we are right in the middle of right now. And at the same time, we're also looking at APIs for internal use. I have learned that SOA failed, and now API is the new future for connecting internal systems. That's the other learning curve that we are working with right now. So that's me.
Great, thanks. And Travis, do you want to talk a little bit about how you work with some of your customers around helping them identify where their first API opportunity is?
Sure. So when we meet with our customers, oftentimes our entire objective is to help them build a secure API platform. And so talking to them about the open standards that exist, that are deployed, that are reliable and trustworthy, that they can comfortably build on to manage the risks associated with opening up their data through a platform. And what we do with our customers is we actually help them put together a comprehensive strategy that lasts many, many years, and then start to tie that to different projects that they have going and are working on, so that they can begin to get benefit from their API platform right away, and then grow that and expand on that platform by launching maybe one API and getting parts of the security apparatus put in place, launching a second API and developing that. So really what we're doing with our customers is kind of helping them put together the strategy and then tactically begin implementing it project by project.
How, for all of you, how willing is well, in your case, the external partners, but the internal liaison partners that you have for our other two panelists, how willing are they to go down the API road, or is there a big reluctance about what sharing data will mean?
I think in general for big corporations like mine, I've been struggling for years with the question, what should be kept secret in the data? I mean, traditionally, from an IT perspective, in a big corporation, everything is secret. Everything should be boxed in and locked in, and you're not supposed to publish anything. We need to rethink that. First, because there's too much data. We cannot protect everything. That's the first thing. But also, we need to be able to share. We need to be able to figure out what is actually worth protecting. We haven't done that yet. We are in the process of trying to learn that, but the reflex in corporations like mine is that we can't. It's a business secret.
Yeah, I agree. That's the same thing for us. I'd say it's you have a reluctancy, and I think you have to take it step by step. When you get so far that what you're talking about, then you've gone far. It's about education. When I started talking about open APIs or APIs in general, or rather open APIs like 4 or 5 years ago, I had to wear a hard hat or a helmet, because that was kind of not what people wanted to hear about. Now things are completely different. But it's all about education and hanging in there, and you find your like-minded people in the organization, and you make sure you have them on board, and then we have the stakeholders that you also have to make sure are on board and know what this is. It's nothing about free. It's nothing about insecure. It's nothing about. We can't, as the Brian Solly's quote earlier today, we can't keep up by ourselves this pace. We have to make sure that our assets are used in the most optimal way, and that means we have to let go of control.
And I think that we need to ask ourselves, like, what business are we in? Are we in the yeah, exactly. What is our product? What is our core? And like the Pearson example I gave in my talk, I was mentioning that kind of comparing it to a manufacturing company that is producing, I don't know, like plywood or something like that, or maybe even furniture. And they produce sawdust as an offspring or an offput of their core business, but that's not their core. But if they can make money from that still, and they get a new revenue stream, then really, I think that the thing that needs to be secret and kept private and definitely secured is that core competence, that core information. But that other stuff, by opening that up, if it's not as critical to the livelihood of the company, or if it, for other reasons, we could open it up securely, knowing that it's kept safe. We get that new revenue, that new possibility, which I think is a fantastic opportunity that helps us not have to wear such a hard helmet anymore, right? Because we're all in our own lives seeing the benefits of the openness with iPhones and tablets and what we can do in our personal lives. And we want that now in businesses, and it's kind of shifting what organizations are comfortable with.
And then of course you have to have your data catalog in place. And for us, coming from a very distributed group of companies, we need to just collect all data. What do we have? And some data sets, I mean, everything that our customers today integrate against, of course, that should be made available in some way. But then there's a lot of exhaust data, for instance, logs and stuff like that. That's ours. We build stuff out of that internally, but I mean, we shouldn't let that data go.
Can I get a sense from the room, how many people are here whose responsibility in their business will be that they have to shepherd through an API strategy? Or who is interested in being here from that? Do any of you guys have any questions as far as some of the stumbling blocks that you're meeting or you expect to meet? Are there some of the first questions you get around, oh, we can't do that, what about the security of the data? Or what are some of the concerns for your business, of the people that you're speaking to in your business when you're trying to talk up an API strategy? Anyone? What's the business value? How do you guys argue the business value of even the internal APIs?
That's a huge problem for me, because we see APIs kind of something. It started with a phone, maybe, or a letter in my case, that you actually had a contact with a customer through a phone line. And then came EDI, and that was kind of phone, but you didn't have the phone. And now, from a business perspective, there is no API now. So they kind of view it as only a kind of communication to a customer. We have to, I think the journey is quite long to realize that the data and the APIs is a product in itself and needs to be treated like a product and not like a communication line. So that's, I think that takes some work. Sure, it's easier for people working with APIs and working with smaller startup companies and living in the kind of new internet world to realize that. But I think people are starting to, because everyone is having an iPhone or an Android phone, and you can see some of the effects coming there.
It has to be business driven all the time. Although it's hard to calculate ROI on an API, we should decide that anything we build should be built with an API and nothing else. We should just not once again do something that can only be reused once. So get that in place, and then you will see the benefits of having an open API. It's kind of easy. It sounds easy, but you need that decision being made.
Is that one of the internal champions that you try to find? Is like those people who are having to do the same repetitive task with the data each time because there isn't an API, and then getting them on board with the idea? Would that be one of your channels?
Those techniques are the champs, of course, yes. And we have the brilliant developers we heard about earlier today as well. They refuse to do stuff that's only reusable once or not reusable at all. so it moves from both directions. It's both strategy and IT. Although the IT may not have the business perspective of things, and then we have the strategy coming from the other direction and making sure that it will connect.
And I think one of the important things for us who know about APIs to keep in mind also is that the business might be saying we need to do such and such. That they're not going to say API, they might just say mobile, or they might just say more frictionless integration with partners or something like that. And we, knowing about APIs, recognize like, aha, what they're saying is they need an API. And then saying, okay, well, there's the strategy around mobility or the strategy around integration, or maybe even just a project that we can tap into and kind of piggyback the API strategy program into that and start to get some wins and show that there's business value in opening up, and to then, after a project is done, to say like, look, how we were able to do this is in fact through an API, and this is what an API is, and it's already producing benefits and value to the company.
Is that something you guys would recommend for those who are trying to just get started with an API strategy in their business, is maybe just call it an integration strategy or something and use that as the Trojan horse, and then down the track say, oh, the horse is powered by APIs, once they've seen the efficiency benefits or something. Would that be one technique?
I'm not sure if I would necessarily hide it, but I would definitely try to piggyback onto that so I could get their budget. And
I don't think there's a problem with the word API in itself. It could be a problem with understanding what it could be. So if you understand it like you probably do, and if you have a job like mine, it's actually kind of a business development role to get your companies to understand what they could use APIs for, or what they could produce, what kind of services could be produced based on APIs. You can't think that the management of a trade company or whatever would know what kind of possibilities lie in the use of APIs. So that's kind of an education task for IT people.
But then to be able to point back to a project that's been successfully delivered and executed, and you have a more receptive audience to say, and this was an API, and this is how we were able to do that, and to get the product owner or the project manager together with you to kind of deliver that, and your API program could take some larger steps forward.
But you can also steal from other companies. You can point to other companies and what they have done and say, this is what I mean, this is what you could do with API.
Yeah.
So,
and nowadays, in the early days, we only could point at consumer examples like Netflix and Facebook and Twitter and things like that. Nowadays, we have lots of B2B examples as well.
Yeah.
Well, we have D&B Direct, and we have, there's tons of Hoovers and things like that. So which makes it much easier to argument for this.
Yep.
So a quick shameless plug, you can actually look on ProgrammableWeb for some of those examples, as far as if you need a case study or a business example of how they've implemented an API strategy or made the links, then we've got an increasing number there so that you can use that as some of your source material to sell internally. Who else? Has anyone got a question for the panel? Yep.
So who is we when you try to get the buy-in, get started, get the ball rolling?
Who are we? When we say we,
what roles do you got? What positions do you hold that
Project
give
manager,
you
project manager, architect, product owner.
Yep.
then we have developers asking for this. Why don't we have this more? And then we have business developers. Well, you mentioned that, but it could be anyone. But I agree that those are the three most important roles.
I think I'm a CIO, and I'm kind of the link between business development and IT. So that's a good position to be in if you want to listen to the demands and try to deliver them in a smart way.
Yeah, I have a question regarding how to choose between profit from the API or actually making the software yourself. So how do you think about that? If you should do the application that use the API, or if you should let somebody else do that and profit from the API instead?
I think it can go either way. I mean, once you have that API, to build that mobile application, you open up the possibility to make money through access. So if you want to have the mobile application, you're going to need the API anyway. But now you have choices. And one of the great things about the API, if you can put a business model around that's sustainable or providing some other indirect benefit, you can capitalize and take advantage of outside innovation, outside resources, which could open up all sorts of new possibilities that you're currently not even thinking of. So, but like I was saying, just getting that mobile app might be a way toward an API strategy or an API product portfolio to kind of get on the field or get out there.
I think from my perspective, we are going out with the APIs to external developers because we want you to use PostNord to send your parcels. So we want to earn the money in the base industry, not on the APIs as kind of the first step at least. And then because we don't know how we could earn money on the APIs yet.
I think that we, knowing data is important to us. Just having data is not enough. We have lots of data. We have government data and other authority data from other authorities, and just having access to data, like the open data session yesterday talked about PCI directive and things like that. That's good. PCI directive is good, but just having data is not enough. So we think that building services on our data and services using APIs that we provide, I think still we will excel in doing the best stuff that we can come up with. But by making it public and making it available, things can happen that we would never imagine. And we could also see that people exploring our data, not having the B2B perspective that we have, could open up totally new fields of opportunities.
Mm-hmm. How much of that do you have to show your internal people? Like, do you guys have to do the mapping yourselves as far as, first of all, mapping where all of the data exists within your business, and then from there identifying or at least having a couple of examples or ideas in your back pocket as far as where the monetization opportunities are, or where an external developer could create something innovative with your data sources? How far down the road do you have to have that ready to be able to bring out of your toolkit when you're working internally?
I'd say, for me personally, it's obvious that the benefits of going open, but when arguing for implementing something, I need to show you the actual benefits right here and right now. But that's not hard. It's not like it's very expensive implementing open APIs or APIs. But you have to do it that way. At least that's the way we do it.
Yeah, that question always comes up early. How are we going to get a return on this? How are we going to make money from this? Those are very early conversations.
More questions from the audience? I was wondering about, with the PostNord example, that what about with so then you guys have got the track and trace data. How much do you mix that with other data sources like weather data or traffic congestion data and those sorts of public sources? Are you guys doing that a bit internally, or?
No, we are not, but we should. We could, for internal use, we could use a lot of kind of external data resources to improve, like our own businesses with all the cars driving around in the city at the traffic and weather situations, and you have a lot of data that we could explore to try to find the benefits, but we are not doing that today.
Right. And is that a cultural? Is that a cultural barrier or a resource? Is it because you don't have the resources for it, or is it because you don't have the organisational culture that has a big data mindset yet, or?
It's just that we are a bit behind. So we are getting there, but we're not a first mover in this area. So we're trying to learn as much as possible now and try to kind of do this really well. And the good thing of being late is that actually things works much better now than they used to do. So that's one of the good things.
So do you envision yourselves doing that and mashing that up
Yeah.
with all these other data,
Yeah.
or outside innovators doing that more than yourselves,
Now,
or both?
I have been experimenting with weather data, for instance, and we are also, of course, looking for a good source of traffic data, obviously, because we are out and running with all those thousands of cars. That will be a part of what we're doing in the future, for sure. But there is also a lack of good data sources for kind of traffic information, for instance. I know US do have quite good sources, UK too, but here there's no national kind of bank for this kind of data.
Right. And then, so Travis, with your experience with working with external customers, it seems like one of the things that's an underlying thing that's come up today is that APIs, there was the initial wave where they were taken up by startups and businesses with an entrepreneurial spirit. Now, as the API field is maturing, there's enterprises are getting on board, but enterprises are back to the sort of situation that Kenneth from PostNord's describing, which is right back at the beginning again, as far as that uptake. How are you seeing that with the sorts of customers who are coming to you, or and the sort of businesses that you're engaging with?
So a lot of times it kind of starts from the ground level as a sort of grassroots effort where they end up building an API for something else that the business needs and not even realizing it is an API, and then sort of doubling back and saying, oh, wait a sec, we're opening up all this data, what do the lawyers think? Or we had to expose this information, so what are the consequences strategically from a security point of view, or these sorts of things. So a lot of the people who have presented at Nordic APIs conferences, who are providing APIs, almost the majority of them have started at the grassroots, just launching an API, not even realizing it, and then sort of doubling back and trying to, okay, let's do this more strategically and more thought through.
Okay, cool. And then, so maybe just, what about the toolkit that you guys might have? What do you find that you have to constantly bring out? There's a couple of the presentation slides you're always using when you're talking with people for the first time. Is there one about security? Is there one about what is an API, or?
I think the one of what is an API and what could it be used for? Maybe that's the one. And then apart from that, we have curiosity. People want to do this, but they're not really sure what it is. So that's my I think my prime tool. We do have good people working with it, and everyone is eager on the IT side.
And bring out the practical examples. I usually start with still the consumer side, because that's very easy to grasp, and you can just tell the Twitter story or the Netflix story or something like that. Then you construct your own examples. What if we had this? Then someone could do this. And you just get people thinking about it. Wouldn't that be pretty cool? So, yeah.
And one thing I like to definitely underscore when I talk about APIs is that it really is unavoidable. It's do or die. You're either going to do this or you're not going to be around in a decade. It's just the way the world is going. If we don't expose information over APIs, I don't believe the business will have that same position that they have in a decade from now. They need to do so in a secure way that they can manage the risks associated with opening up that data, but they must do it.
Okay, wonderful. That's a great note to finish on, actually. So anyone with one final question? No? Okay, look, thanks a lot, everyone, and thanks for our panelists for
Thank you.
Thank you.